DMR's got some new changes that make it just a little tiny bit easier. Still not 100% easy, but easier than it used to be. Howdy everybody, this is Steve, KM9G. Today we're going to take one of these things, and one of these things, and make one of these things talk to the world. Let's get into it. This happens to be a Raspberry Pi 4. You don't necessarily need to use a Pi 4. A Pi 02W is the slowest machine I will recommend. As we get farther into it, there are a couple of other machines that you can use to make this happen. There will be links down in the description for all of the hardware and software you need to make this happen. I have a bunch of videos on how to get started before you get your hotspot rolling. So your Brandmeister ID, your radio ID from radioid.net, and a bunch of other little tiny steps that need to happen on the channel in the back catalog. So we're starting after that. If you need to see those, they exist. Go take a look for them. They will be linked in the description down below as well. I guess the first part of any good software installation starts with getting the software. We're going to go to w0chp.radio, which is the website that is showing up here. If you would like to get all kinds of information about W0CHP and the Pi-Star dashboard that he is currently working on, this would be the place to get it. But what we're going to do is we're going to start with WPSD, the W0CHP Pi-Star dashboard official project page. And that's the link at the top that I just clicked on. And you can read all of this information here at your leisure because you really don't want to watch me read it to you. I'm going to go right to download WPSD, and it's going to give me a bunch of information. Remember when I told you there are other machines you can run it on besides the Raspberry Pi series? You can also run it on an Orange Pi Zero, a Nano Pi Neo, a ZumSpot Mini, a ZumSpot Elite, a ZumSpot USB stick, which you would then need to attach to something, DV Mega, or the Bridgecom Sky Bridge. We're going to do the Raspberry Pi, and that means we need to click on this link here at the very top. Once we get that link downloaded, you're going to need a way to write it out to your SD card. And in order to write it out to the SD card, I highly recommend Balena Etcher, and you can find that at etcher.balena.io. Again, link in the description down below for you. And you just click on the Download Etcher button and pick the one that matches your operating system. I am running this on macOS, but this runs fine on x86 Linux. It runs fine on Windows. And if you look over here, it says x64 for macOS. This will also run on the Apple Silicon versions of Mac computers. And then this is what Etcher looks like when you get Etcher up and running. Take your SD card and put it into your SD card reader. That's going to be very important. It's hard to write to an SD card when it's not in the computer yet. From there, I'm going to pick Flash from File, and I'm going to pick the WPSD RPi latest image file that we downloaded. You do not need to uncompress this file. Etcher takes care of this automatically for you because it is awesome. Select Target. When you pick the Select Target, it's only going to show you removable media, so you only need to pick the removable media that's there. This is another one of the safety features that Etcher provides for you. You're not going to overwrite your hard disk unless you try really hard, and then that's on you. So Apple SD card, reader media, and it's a 64 gig card, which is what I put into the SD card reader. So there's a 1-for-1 match. I know I'm doing the right thing. I'm not going to destroy anything I don't want to destroy. So I pick that and I say select one. And you can actually use Etcher to write multiple SD cards at the same time if you'd like to. That's kind of an advanced thing. And then you click Flash. Depending on the speed of your computer, the speed of your SD card reader, and the speed of your SD card itself, this will take some time. It will uncompress first, then it will write the image, then it will verify the image, then it will tell you it's done and the image will be ejected. Back on the W0CHP.radio website, there is a tool called a WPA config generator. This is how we're going to get this thing on your Wi-Fi network quick and easy. You want to type in your SSID and you want to type in your passphrase. This is not my password. And then you want to pick your country. And I am in the United States. And once you do that and you hit generate config, it will pop up a pre-populated configuration file for you to download. Take your SD card that you previously wrote the image to and put it back into your SD card drive. If it's already in, take it out and put it back in because the Etcher software has unmounted it from your computer and your computer no longer sees it. Once you put it back in, there will be a folder called boot. You want to take this config file and click this button here to download it and save it to the boot partition that has now shown up. It'll be under your file management system on your operating system, and it will look like it is a volume called boot, probably even having an SD card icon for it. Next thing you need to do is eject that SD card and take it out of your SD card reader and put it into your Raspberry Pi without dropping it. And now it's inside of my Raspberry Pi and is ready to have the hat attached to it. Most Raspberry Pis do not come with the GPIO pin header attached at the top, so you'll need to solder that in or find one that has it. And then take your modem and attach your modem to those pin headers. Ta-da! Now you're ready to go. Plug some power into it, get a screen on it, and let's get started. It will take a long time on the first boot in order to get this thing up and running. It's going to resize the file system, it's going to set some configuration parameters, and it is going to finally boot up and be ready. You'll know it's ready if you have a screen attached when it shows the display of W0CHP and you're ready to roll. It'll even tell you your IP address that you need to log into. If you don't have a screen attached, just wait for it. And if it's not up, wait a little bit longer. If you want to, you can also run on a Linux machine or a Mac machine the nmap command and scan your network for IP addresses and hosts. Or you can run Angry IP Scanner on Windows and do the exact same thing on Windows. The very first time you go into the configuration of your Pi-Star dashboard, it's going to ask you for a password. The user ID and password by default is pi-star, P-I-S-T-A-R, and the password is raspberry. Once you get into Pi-Star by going to http://pi-star.local, you will be presented with a screen that says, "I'm not configured yet," and a link to click that will bring you to this configuration page. If you just wait long enough, this configuration page will show up also. So you're right there with me anyway. This is a very straightforward configuration page. It is just an evolution of previous versions of Pi-Star and previous versions of the WPSD as well. What I want to do is I want to start from the top down and make some changes. So hostname pi-star is fine. If you happen to have one of these for DMR and one of these for YSF and one of these and one of these and one of these, then change this to be DMR. And then when you come back in, it will be DMR.local instead of Pi-star.local. I'm not going to change it. My call sign, KM9G. That is my call sign. That's what I'm going to type in. One of the new things that you will see in the new version of Pi-Star Dashboard is this apply changes, revert changes. Before, we used to think, right or wrong, I don't know, but we used to think that you'd have to push the apply changes at the bottom of every single one of these boxes. Now he's saying make all necessary changes first and then click apply changes. There's definitely some reinforcement there that we no longer have to sit through that long apply changes stage. I'm going to go ahead and put in my DMR call sign ID. 3170318 is mine. If you do not have one, go to radioid.net and get you one. They're free. Radio mode, simplex or duplex. If you have an MMDVM modem, multi-mode digital voice mode modem, or is it multi-mode digital voice modem? And then it would be MMDVM modem, multi-mode digital voice modem. If you have one of those that has two antennas, you want duplex as your choice. If you have one that has one antenna, you want simplex as your choice. Radio frequency 438-800 is the default selection here. Make sure that you pick one that is clear of traffic in your area and is not a local repeater or something along those lines, and put it in. 438-800 is clear where I am, so this is perfect. The radio modem type, I'm going to leave this blank for now because I don't actually know the name of my modem. I will show you when we get to that stage how to figure out what the name of your modem is. For now, leave it blank and we will get back to this. Baud rate is fine at 115-200. Time zone, I am in America, Chicago. And if you go to the search box, you can type America, Chicago. I'm actually not in Chicago. I'm in the central time zone, and it hurts me just a little tiny bit to put in Chicago. I'm going to go ahead and put the 12-hour time frame in because I'm one of those types of hams. Dashboard language, English US is fantastic. Update notifier is enabled. I do want to know when there are updates that come out. Latitude, longitude, I'm going to leave that the way it is for now. Town locator, put this as your town. Put your lat long in as what your lat long is. I happen to move quite a bit, so it doesn't really matter. But my domicile address is Livingston, Texas, in the US, so I will put those in. The URL, I'm going to leave this at auto. For the URL dashboard thing, I'm going to set this to auto, which is going to make it my QRZ page. On various dashboards, you will have this pop up as a link to yourself. So if you have something that's more important than your call sign page, your personal website, your YouTube channel, whatever it is that you would like to have put in that box on other people's screens and your screen is what you would type here manually. This is not the address of your Pi-Star dashboard. That is this one up here. Back down to where we were. I'm going to leave APRS off for this demo. You can turn it on and play with it as you see fit, but what I would suggest is you go through the demo with me and get a working setup, and then afterwards you start playing around. So I'm going to leave that off. I'm going to leave GPS off. I'm going to turn DMR on because that's what this tutorial is all about, is how to get your Pi-Star set up for DMR, and this is going to require some more configuration. Those boxes will not show up until after I click the Apply Changes button. The display configuration, I have the Type 3.96 inch screen, the little tiny guy. And I only have one port to choose from, so I'm going to pick AMA 0, which is the one that was there. The Nextion display settings doesn't apply because I don't have a Nextion display. Display always active is whether it's on all the time or not on all the time. OLEDs, the O stands for organic. They do go bad after some time, so it's up to you if you want to leave it on or off. I leave it on because I turn my Pi-Star dashboard off power-wise when I'm not using it, so I'm fine with that. Scroll the display, that's fantastic. Rotate the display. If it happens to be upside down in your orientation and the way you have it sitting on your wall, your desk, whatever, then you want to flip that. And then invert makes it a colored background with black text instead of a black background with colored text. Again, personal preferences, have at it. Node type private or semi-public. Private is just fine for me, and that means that my DMR ID is the one that's going to be allowed to use my dashboard. If you have a need to set this public, then you probably know more than this tutorial needs to teach you, or have a desire to experiment, and have at it. UPnP is enabled. This helps punch holes through my firewall so that I can get DMR traffic in and out. Dashboard access is private, and IRC DDB gateway is private, and SSH access is private. And if you hover over any one of these options, you will get what's called a tooltip that tells you, like, what is IRC DDB remote command access? Do you want the IRC DDB remote command access to be publicly available? This modifies the UPnP firewall configuration. This is one of those things where if you knew what IRC DDB was, then you'd probably know whether you wanted it to be publicly available or not. And if not, Google is your friend. Auto access point is on or off. In the event that this device cannot find the network that you've configured it to attach to, it will make its own access point that you can then attach to. And then down here is some information on your wireless network and signal strength and IP address and MAC address and number of packets and so on since the last time this page was refreshed. If you would like your automatic access point, your automatic wireless hotspot to have a password, a pre-shared key, this is where you would put that information in. And then for remote access to this website that we are looking at, you can now change the password here. I'm not changing any of that stuff. I'm just hitting apply changes, and it's going to take a minute. And now it is asking me to reselect my modem. It's re is in parentheses because I never selected it in the first place. Let's go find out what our modem type is. Under advanced, under tools, there is SSH access, and it's going to ask me to log in. My login, Pi-Star, and my password, raspberry. It presents me with this login, and it says WPSD command line tools are all prefixed with WPSD hyphen. So I'm going to type in WPSD hyphen, and I'm going to press the tab key twice. The first time it's going to say, hey, there's a lot of stuff, which is why the screen flashed, and the second time it's going to show me all of the stuff. And what I'm looking for is detect modem, and it's the very first option. So detect modem. I just type in D and then hit tab, and it completes the whole rouse. If you look at your Pi-Star while this is happening, it's going to start flashing. Oh, you need to be root. So I'm going to do sudo space bang bang to rerun the previous command as root. And you can see the LEDs on the Pi-Star modem flashing. And the command is complete. And what it's telling me is my modem data is an MMDVM HS hat version 1.6.0. So I need to know that information. From there I can type exit to get out of the SSH section. I go back to configuration. And again, it's asking me to reselect my modem. And now I can look for that by name. MMDVM HS hat is what it said it was. That's what it is. And then while I am in here, I should now have the DMR page. And I do have the DMR page. I'm in the US, so Brandmeister 3102 in the US is fine. My password is my password for the Brandmeister page. So I type that in. I will show you how to get your Brandmeister password coming up a little bit. If you have more than one hotspot, then you want to pick your ESS ID. This is basically just a station identifier. So if I have one here and I have one at my office and I have one in my car while I'm traveling, I'd want to have them numbered 1, 2, and 3. So I personally knew which one was which, and I could make a mental note of that. I don't have that set up. I'm going to leave that as none. Enable or disable the Brandmeister network. I'm going to enable that. I don't use free DMR. I don't use System X. I don't use TGIF. I don't use XLX. But if you did, then fill out those configuration settings as appropriate. And then for general DMR settings, I don't make any changes of any of those. Your color code needs to match what is set in your radio or this will not work. And then everything else is stuff that was already there. I'm going to hit apply changes and we wait for changes to be finished applying. Once you have finished applying your changes, you're going to get this big yellow notice up here that it's recommended that you save your configuration file. Definitely go ahead and save this. We're going to save a new profile and we're going to call it first. And we're going to spell first right. And I'm going to hit save profile. That way, when I make changes in the future, I can go back to my first profile and I know that that's my first profile. Let me get back to the dashboard now by clicking dashboard at the top. And as you can see, we are green across the board. Green for DMR, green for DMR net, and DMR is enabled with no traffic. There are some things we need to do over at brandmeister.network. This is the brandmeister.network website, and it is glorious, isn't it? Log in here with your normal login and password, and somehow it magically refreshed itself, and I was already logged in. I don't know what happened there, but it does that kind of stuff. This is the same password I mentioned earlier that you will need to use in your DMR configuration inside of the dashboard. What we need to get now is the API key. We go into profile settings under your user menu, and in this section marked security settings, it's very obvious to find once you know where it is, but if you have no idea what you're looking for, it's impossible to find. So here it is. The upper right-hand corner of the security settings box is the API keys button. And this WPSD 4 is, because I've done this 4 times already, I'm going to remove this one, and I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to call it WPSD-5. And then I have the ability to scan it with my phone for a QR code or copy it and paste it in. I'm going to go ahead and change this after the video is over. So if you guys want to impersonate me, hopefully you can do it during the time period that I'm recording this before I release it to the public. Back in our dashboard, if we go into the admin page and we click on Brandmeister Manager, the reason why we need the API key is because it enables a bunch of extra features that you're really going to be interested in. So it tells you in this big yellow box to enter your API key. I'm going to click on that phrase, enter my API key, and it's going to take me to this page where I enter my API key. I told you this was easy. This happens very fast. So fast you don't even know that it happened. You have no idea. So now we go back into admin and we click on Brandmeister Manager, and it won't ask us again because it's already there. So what can we do now that we have the API key in? First thing we can do is we can add in a static talk group. 3192083 is the Toads talk group. And I'm going to go ahead and hit add and then hit add/delete static. And that is success. And it will reload the page automatically for me. Now, anytime somebody on the Toads Talk group is talking, I will hear them without having to key up first. The other thing that is very important with this key is if you get into a very popular talk group, say America Link or the Hurricane WatchNet or something, and there's just people yammering away, you can actually go in here and you can drop QSO or you can drop all dynamic, which will get rid of that person. You should be able to, in your radio, pick a choice and key up into your new choice. But if people are talking, your hotspot is too busy to hear you, so it can't be done. This takes care of that. The other way is to come down here to the bottom where it says Instant Mode Manager. And under Instant Mode Manager, you can pick DMR, you can pick pause, and then you can hit submit, and it will pause the DMR and shut those people up. This is also very useful if you have one hotspot that you use for multiple modes. So I can pause DMR and I can resume YSF, and then I can start talking on YSF without having to figure out which radio or which network or whatever is going on. It's a very useful feature, and it's another reason why I like the WPSD dashboard. Next up, we need to get a radio and get connected. I have plenty of DMR radios and plenty of videos showing how to program DMR radios on this channel already, so I won't go into too much detail on that here, but we do need to get into a talk group and get it all configured. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to use, is it going to focus? Focus. Close enough. You can tell that that says parrot, can't you? So I am going to key up on the parrot talk group and test it out. KM9G testing parrot 1234 4321. And if it works, I should hear it come back to me.
KM9G testing parrot 1234 4321.
Hey, it works. Pretty cool stuff. What that did was send the commands from the radio to the hotspot, from the hotspot to the internet, to the Brandmeister network, which then recorded my communication, and then all of that turned around and came back to me in reverse through the internet back to my radio. So 100% of this system is now working. Awesome sauce. Another very cool feature of this dashboard, and one of my personal favorites, is the live caller function. If I click on live caller, it will tell me who the current caller is. This is fantastic if you want to just leave this thing sitting on the side with this screen up. So I am the last person to have keyed up on this hotspot. Let me do it again. KM9G testing parrot 1234 4321, and then we'll see parrot come back at me.
KM9G 9G, testing parrot, 1234, 4321.
And if anybody else was to key up at the same time, you would see their caller ID on the screen instead. This is fantastic stuff. I love this. There's some other stuff down here that is also interesting while you are having a QSO with somebody. And then at the bottom, you can see the temperature and the current date and time for the hotspot. The clock is way off. That should probably be synchronized. And then there is this main dashboard button down here to get you back to the main dashboard. I know this stuff is real rocket science, isn't it? Here's all the stuff that you will need in order to get a successful hotspot up and running. You do not need a fast SD card. What I would suggest is if you have an SD card in a new project, you get a good SD card for that, take that project's card and put it back into this, take one step back, father, grandfather style. You don't need 256 gigs. I think it'll be fine in 32. It definitely will not work in 2, and in 8 you will probably run out in a while. So I would recommend somewhere between 16 and the most you want to pay for. Problem is that it's really hard to get some smaller size SD cards, and they actually wind up costing more than these big boys here. You're going to need a set of GPIO headers to plug in your hotspot modem, and so that's this one here. You're actually going to need a computer to run it on, so a Raspberry Pi 02W, either 02W or 3 or 4 or 5. 5 is the way to go. And then of course you'll need the modem and a case and all kinds of stuff. And Rzync is a reputable brand for modems and cases and whatnot. And there you go. So you'll need to do a little tiny bit of soldering to get this thing all working together. And you're at about $103 in, plus the cost of a radio, in order to get onto worldwide communications over DMR. If you like tutorials like this one, be sure you are subscribed to the channel for more of these coming up, because this is one of the things that I do here. There are links for all of that stuff I just showed you in the description down below. One of the things that's really difficult about DMR is programming a code plug. If you have trouble or concerns or questions about programming a code plug, I have a video for you right over here that makes it very easy and breaks it all down into a nice metaphor that hopefully makes sense to you. I'll be over there waiting for you. Thanks for being awesome.